Sometimes we forget just how amazing our world is, and to remedy that, I've prepared for you a fascinating collection of interesting things that will impress you. Enjoy watching. The Mariana Trench is the deepest oceanic trench in the world. Its deepest point, the Challenger Deep, reaches almost 11,000 meters. This area remains one of the least explored places on our planet. It might seem that anything could be down there, except plastic. However, scientists have confirmed that plastic pollution has reached even this zone. In 2019, a team of researchers from Newcastle University in the UK studied amphipods, small crustaceans. They collected many specimens from various parts of the world's oceans. During the study, scientists found that the stomachs of most amphipods contained plastic particles. Moreover, the deeper the creatures lived, the more plastic they had in their stomachs. The amphipods from the Challenger Deep were found to be the worst affected. For instance, only half of the amphipods caught near the New Hebrides Trench contained plastic, while 100% of the amphipods from the Challenger Deep had plastic in their digestive tracts. An analysis of the microplastic particles in the amphipods' stomachs revealed that they consisted of semi-synthetic and cellulose fibers used in clothing production, as well as nylon and polyethylene. This research once again proved that even the deepest parts of the world's oceans are now fully contaminated with plastic waste. If you consider yourself a true cheese enthusiast and think you're ready to try any kind of cheese, then you absolutely must acquaint yourself with the Sicilian delicacy Kasum Maru. Kasum Maru can be translated as rotten cheese, and it's named that for a good reason. Inside this cheese are live larvae of the cheese fly. Gourmets wishing to taste this delicacy are recommended to eat the cheese together with the larvae, although some prefer to get rid of the unpleasant jumping maggots. Kasum Maru is made from a type of sheep's cheese, Sardinian pecorino. The cheese is aged beyond the normal fermentation stage to trigger the rotting process, and cheese flies are deliberately allowed to lay their eggs inside the cheese wheels. The larvae accelerate the decomposition of fats, resulting in a cheese with a consistency similar to thick cream. A special liquid called teardrop also forms inside the wheel. Eating this cheese is not only extremely unpleasant but also quite dangerous, as the larvae are resistant to human stomach acid and can survive for some time in the gastrointestinal tract. As a result, Kasum Maru was banned from sale in Italy for some time, but when it became a cultural treasure of Sicily, it reappeared on the shelves of certain cheese shops. On June 1, 1885, priest Behringer Saunière began serving in the poor parish of the village of Rennes-le-Château, which had a population of no more than 200 people. He performed his duties well and earned the respect of his parishioners. In 1891, he decided to restore the church, which had been built in the 9th century. To fund the restoration, he borrowed money from the villagers. During the restoration, Behringer discovered 4 parchment scrolls hidden in a hollow column containing genealogical trees and encrypted text from the New Testament. After this discovery, he took the documents to the Bishop of Carcassonne, who then sent the priest to Paris for further study of the documents. What exactly Behringer learned remains a mystery, but after this discovery, he began to behave very strangely. Upon returning to his parish, the priest searched the local cemetery and found the tomb of the Marquise d'Aupule de Blanchefort, with a gravestone that had an anagram matching the message in the old scrolls. Despite his religious role, Behringer destroyed the tomb and gravestone. He then began a secret correspondence with unknown recipients across Europe, spending large sums on postage. After 1896, the priest started spending enormous amounts of money, despite having an annual income of just over 60 francs. Behringer significantly improved life in the village, building roads, a water supply system, the Tour Magdala, and the Villa Bethania, though he never lived in the villa. In front of the church, he installed a statue of Asmodeus, the guardian of secrets. The priest also created strange frescoes. One depicted a baby in a Scottish plaid, and another showed the body of Christ being carried to the tomb under a night sky with a full moon. For nearly 20 years, Behringer spent vast sums, hosted famous guests, and threw lavish feasts. However, on January 17, 1917, he suffered a heart attack and died. Interestingly, 5 days before his death, his housekeeper, named Marie, ordered a coffin for him, as if the priest knew he would soon die. Moreover, the destroyed tombstone of the Marquise had this exact date inscribed on it. The story of this priest remains a mystery to this day. Where did Behringer get all that money? What was in the scrolls he found? Why did he destroy the Marquise's tombstone, and how could he have known about his death? Unfortunately, there are no answers to these questions. Some speculate that the priest found the treasure of the Templars, perhaps even the most legendary and mysterious artifact of the order, the Holy Grail. In this photograph, you see what appears to be an ordinary man. However, according to the photographer, this man has unique abilities. A young man named Rick Morgan posted this photograph on social media. Underneath, he shared a story that happened to him and his friends. While they were performing tricks outside, a man in sunglasses approached them. At first, he watched the boys intently, then asked them not to perform the next trick, saying one of them would suffer a serious injury. Of course, the friends ignored him, and to their regret. Everything happened exactly as the stranger had predicted. One of Rick's friends made a mistake and suffered a serious spinal injury, which required hospitalization. Many of us don't believe in paranormal abilities, but such cases prove that some people among us can see and know much more than we can imagine. There are many legends in the history of space exploration that lack enough substantial evidence to be considered true. One of them is the lost cosmonauts theory. Anyone who knows a little about space exploration is aware that the first person to fly into space was Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. However, according to this theory, the Soviet government kept its failures secret from the world, and attempts to send humans into space were made even before Gagarin. Moreover, during these early attempts, many cosmonauts perished. The theory also suggests that cosmonauts continued to die even after Gagarin's flight, during expeditions to the Moon and even Mars. The history of this theory began in 1959 when an anonymous Czechoslovak communist allegedly revealed secret information about Soviet cosmonauts' clandestine spaceflights. This news was quickly picked up by the Italian news agency Continental. As more reports of hidden information surfaced, an entire investigation was launched, but no evidence was found to support the claims. For this reason, the theory of the lost cosmonauts remains unproven. We're all used to seeing bright photographs of various objects in the universe, but do they really look as colorful as we think? First, let's take a look at this picture. It was taken in 1946 from a V-2 ballistic rocket, and it's the first photo of Earth from space. Even though this photograph was black and white, it became a sensation because it allowed people to see our planet from the outside. Today, this image may no longer impress us, as photography of Earth has reached new heights. But by looking at it, we can imagine what galaxies and nebulae really look like from the outside. Photographs of these objects make us imagine them as very colorful, but if we were flying past them on a spaceship, we wouldn't be able to enjoy such vibrant colors. In fact, we might not even notice them at all. The reason is that the colors in these photographs don't correspond to reality. Astronomers capture images of nebulae by photographing the same object using different filters, and then they stitch all the images together. The filters can vary, but it's thanks to them that we get such vivid, mesmerizing photographs. The most popular palette is the one used by the Hubble telescope. Each color in a nebula has its own meaning. For example, dark red indicates ionized sulfur, red stands for ionized hydrogen, and blue represents ionized oxygen. While we marvel at the colorful hues and overall beauty of these nebulae, scientists use these colors to determine the composition of different parts of these objects. In the realm of permafrost in western Yakutia, Russia, lies a true man-made wonder, the deepest diamond mine in the world, the Mir Kimberlite Pipe. This site was discovered in 1955 from a forecast map created by Soviet geologist Natalia Kind and her team. Then, in 1957, an expedition led by Yuri Kabardin and Ekaterina Yelagina confirmed the presence of diamonds at this location. Today, the mine is 735 meters deep and 1.4 kilometers in diameter. Soon after the discovery of the deposit, construction of the mine and a settlement for workers began, which was named Mirny. Initially, the work was very challenging, and workers even had to use dynamite. However, by the early 1960s, the mine was producing at least 2 kilograms of diamonds annually. Alongside the mine, the town of Mirny developed, later achieving city status. Over the years of diamond mining, the mine has grown to a depth of 735 meters. A long serpentine road was built along the walls for trucks, but only workers are allowed to descend it. For tourists, there is a special observation platform located on the eastern side of the crater. You can also admire amazing kimberlite specimens at the Savrasov Museum in Mirny, which houses more than 20,000 such exhibits. Italy attracts millions of tourists with its cuisine, architecture, art, and sheer beauty. However, there is one incredibly creepy place in this country, the abandoned island of Paglia, located in the Venetian lagoon. Getting there is quite difficult, as permits to visit are not issued to everyone and require a 10-month wait. However, those who have visited Paglia never want to return. The island's eerie history began in the Middle Ages during the plague epidemic. Paglia was chosen as a quarantine zone, where the sick from all over northern Italy were brought every day. It is believed that over 160,000 people died on the island during that time. The plague wasn't the only grim chapter in Paglia's history. In 1922, a psychiatric hospital was opened on the island, run by a heartless doctor. Inside the hospital, he conducted numerous experiments on mentally ill patients who were completely defenseless. This went on for several years until, for unknown reasons, the doctor threw himself from the bell tower. It is said that this story inspired American writer Dennis Lehane to write the novel Shutter Island. Visitors to the island often report hearing screams and moans and even seeing ghosts that are hostile to guests. This is why people flee from this terrifying place and never wish to return. In these frames, you can see simple experiments that clearly demonstrate quantum levitation, also known as the Meisner effect, in action. In physics, the Meisner effect refers to the complete expulsion of a magnetic field from the volume of a conductor when it transitions to a superconducting state. This phenomenon was first observed in 1933 by German physicists Walter Meisner and Robert Ochsenfeld. To understand the Meisner effect, it's enough to recall the properties of magnets. When we bring a ferromagnetic material close to a magnet, magnetic induction occurs, and in the presence of an external magnetic field source, the material begins to stick to the magnet. In the case of superconductors, however, when an external magnetic field is applied, the induction remains zero, and the magnetic flux is expelled. This results in the so-called quantum levitation, where the magnet doesn't attract the superconductor but instead repels it, causing it to float above. This interesting phenomenon can only be observed when the superconductor is cooled, for example, using liquid nitrogen. The moment the magnetic field is expelled, causing the magnet, which was lying on the cooled superconductor, to rise and float, is called the Meisner effect. It looks very impressive, but so far this feature has few practical applications. What you see in these frames may seem like computer graphics, or some kind of mask made for horror movies, but in reality, this is a robot made from human skin, or rather, from human skin cells. In 2024, scientists from Tokyo University managed to create a robotic face covered in human skin cells. Although similar experiments had been conducted before, it was the Japanese specialists who finally succeeded in bonding the cells together, thus creating a single sheet of skin. Moreover, this tissue is exceptionally strong and can regenerate after damage. To achieve this result, the scientists took samples of human skin cells, grew them on a collagen scaffold, and then applied the scaffold to a resin base. The resulting material can be attached to the robot's face using a special collagen gel. Previously, skin tissue was attached to the robot's face using microscopic anchors, but this method caused rapid tissue breakdown. The use of collagen gel helped solve this problem. Thanks to this development, scientists have taken yet another step closer to creating robots that are as close to humans as possible. Some fishing methods seem very strange, and clam fishing is one of them. One mollusk hunter decided to capture the process of his catch and share it with others on the internet. It turns out that this method of collecting valuable clams is quite interesting and unusual. First, the hunter finds the right spot. Then he smooths out the sand and looks for holes in it. These holes are the burrows of clams. After that, he takes a bottle of salt and generously pours it into the holes. After a while, clams, razor clams, start to emerge. But what makes them leave their burrows and get caught? It's all about their sensitivity to changes in the composition of the water inside their burrows. The salt irritates the clams, and they try to escape, leaving the hunter to simply pick them up by hand. Various types of razor clams are a popular delicacy in China, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Their meat is rich in phosphorus, iron, and protein, making it a healthy, low-calorie option. As a result, clam fishing is widespread in these countries. We measure length in meters, mass in grams, time in seconds, and temperature in degrees. For the average person, temperature is associated with the degree of heat or cold. But from the standpoint of physics, temperature is a measure of energy or particle vibration in a system. As the temperature changes, Brownian motion occurs, in which molecules move faster with heat or slower with cooling. But is it possible for particles to stop moving entirely? This question greatly interested British physicist William Thomson, Lord Kelvin. He hypothesized that Brownian motion would theoretically cease at a certain negative temperature, which he called absolute zero. In 1954, the General Conference on Weights and Measures established the thermodynamic temperature scale with a single reference point, the temperature at which water can exist in three phases simultaneously: solid, liquid, and gas. This value was set at 273.16, with a deviation of 0.01 from the Celsius scale. Thus, the value of absolute zero is minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. This became the starting point for the Kelvin absolute temperature scale. Once this value was established, scientists tried for a long time to determine whether such a temperature could exist in our universe. However, no matter how hard they tried, they were unable to create such a temperature. The record low temperature was achieved in 2021 in a laboratory by German scientists. They dropped magnetized gas atoms from a 120-meter tower, continuously changing the magnetic field to almost completely stop the particles, allowing them to reach a temperature of 38 picokelvin, just 38 trillionths of a degree above absolute zero. Although this deviation may seem insignificant, it is still an error for physicists, meaning that absolute zero remains a theoretical unit of measurement. Burton Agnes Hall is a large medieval estate located in the village of the same name in England, and it is associated with a creepy story about a screaming skull that is not a mere legend. It is well known that the skull of the youngest daughter of the estate's first owner, Henry Griffith, is kept within the walls of the Great Hall. This story began in the early 17th century. In 1620, Henry Griffith's three daughters went for a walk in the woods. When the youngest daughter, Anne, fell behind her sisters, she was attacked by a robber. The sisters found her nearly dead, but before she passed away, she made them promise to bury her head separately from her body in the walls of the Great Hall, as she loved her home dearly and wanted to remain in it forever. The sisters did not keep their promise, and Anne was buried in the nearby churchyard. Afterward, paranormal events began to occur in the house, which only stopped when the girl's father fulfilled her request. Subsequent owners of the house, upon discovering the creepy skull in a cupboard, immediately tried to get rid of it. However, as soon as they did, eerie groans and screams echoed through the house at night, and the walls trembled as if during an earthquake. All attempts to remove the skull led to terrifying consequences, and in the end, it was sealed inside the wall to prevent it from scaring people while allowing poor Anne to continue living in her beloved home. The Brazilian island of Queimada Grande could have become an ideal resort, attracting a vast number of tourists, if not for one detail. The fact is, this island is literally crawling with snakes, including one of the most venomous species, the golden lancehead pit viper. The venom of these reptiles is far more dangerous than that of a cobra. Just one drop is enough for a mouse to die within 2 seconds. Golden lancehead pit vipers not only possess deadly venom, but are also quite large. Their bodies can reach up to 118 centimeters in length. These snakes are easily recognizable by their yellow-golden color with triangular or square patches. However, you are unlikely to ever encounter them, as they only inhabit Queimada Grande, and the island has been closed to visitors for over 30 years. The golden lancehead pit viper is an endangered species, and Brazilian scientists are concerned about this issue. It might seem that closing the island to the public would help increase the snake population, but unfortunately, this method hasn't yielded results, and the number of snakes continues to decline. The primary reason is that due to the limited territory, most lanceheads are now born as intersex individuals, snakes that have both male and female reproductive organs. Such snakes are incapable of reproduction. Sadly, in the near future, Queimada Grande may lose its most unique inhabitants. One of the most popular baits used by Australian fishermen is the beachworm. These creatures look incredibly creepy. They have sharp jaws on their heads, and their bodies can grow up to 2 meters long. Although the worms are completely blind, they have an excellent sense of smell. Their appearance and large size don't scare the fishermen, as these worms are plentiful in Australia, and most fish love them, quickly falling for such bait. Additionally, they're easy to catch. Fishermen wait for low tide and lure the worms to the surface using rotten fish. It doesn't take long for a worm to appear. Just hold the fish over a hole for a few seconds, then press the worm's head with a special tool and gently pull it out of the sand. The caught worms are placed in a bucket of fresh seawater and used as bait right away. Sometimes they are briefly dipped in alcohol and frozen for later use. Due to the worm's great length, multiple pieces of bait can be made from a single worm, as a 15-centimeter piece is enough to catch most fish. Australian beachworms are abundant on many surf beaches in Queensland, New South Wales, and South Australia. Our planet seems large enough, especially considering it comfortably holds over 8 billion people, with about 15% of its surface remaining uninhabited. However, Earth is just a tiny speck compared to many other objects in the universe. To help us understand just how small our planet is, even within the solar system, we have a unique image taken by the Voyager 1 space probe. This photograph was taken on February 14, 1990, after Voyager 1 had completed its mission in the farthest reaches of our solar system, the Kuiper Belt. NASA astronomer Carl Sagan suggested taking pictures of the planets. One of these photographs, named the Pale Blue Dot, shows a tiny object, and that object is our Earth. This image caused a sensation because it makes us reflect on how fleeting life is and how important it is for each of us to value it. The series of images of the planets in our solar system was taken using wide-angle and narrow-angle cameras with red, blue, and green filters, which were used sequentially. The elongated streaks visible in the frame are scattered sunlight. They appear due to the exposure lengths and the diffraction of light on the calibration lamp's support struts in front of the camera lens. After the images were stitched together, they resulted in stunning photographs. Carl Sagan himself was so moved by them that he wrote a touching essay, often compared to Steve Jobs' famous speech to Stanford graduates. Mels Hole is considered one of the most mysterious and mystical places in the United States. The world learned about it after Mel Waters called into an American radio show, Coast to Coast AM, on February 21, 1997. The man shared that on his property, located near the town of Ellensburg in Washington state. he discovered a mysterious and incredibly deep hole. Despite its sudden appearance, the inside of the hole had walls lined with bricks. Waters became a frequent caller on the radio show, sharing what was happening with the mysterious hole. According to him, he tried to measure the depth of the hole using a reel of thick wire. However, despite using a total of 24 kilometers of wire, the bottom of the well was never found. Later, Waters shared a mystical story. His neighbor decided to throw his dead dog into the mysterious hole, and a few days later they both encountered the dog, alive and completely healthy. That was when the man came to the conclusion that the hole had magical properties and could bring the dead back to life. Waters continued to call the radio show for 5 years, until 2002, but he always refused to reveal the exact location of the hole. However, he disappeared soon after an investigation revealed that no person by the name of Mel Waters existed. Interestingly, shortly before his disappearance, Waters mentioned that government agencies had found the exact location of the hole and forced him to give up his land and move to Australia. Whether it's just a coincidence or if the man made everything up, it all seems very strange. In 1975, Laos and North Vietnam, with the support of the Soviet Union, waged war against the Hmong tribes, who had sided with the United States during the Vietnam War. In 1981, refugees reported to the U.S. government that strange yellow rain-like substances had fallen in their residential areas. Afterward, people experienced seizures and bleeding, some went blind, and those in the epicenter of the yellow rain soon died. This news was picked up by U.S. Secretary of State Alexander Haig, who concluded that this was not a natural phenomenon, but rather the use of biological weapons by the Soviet Union. Haig claimed that at least 10,000 people had died as a result of these illegal actions. He accused the Soviet Union of supplying its allies in Laos and Vietnam with trichothecene mycotoxins, a poison produced by fungi, which can be used as a biological weapon. The Soviet Union denied these accusations, and an independent investigation was launched. During the investigation, scientists discovered that the Soviet authorities had indeed not used biological weapons. The sticky yellow substance was actually the feces of honeybees. Many of you, upon hearing the name Rainbow Valley, might imagine a paradise with scenic landscapes and endless sunshine. However, in reality, Rainbow Valley is a grim place where people often lose their lives. Rainbow Valley is a section on Mount Everest, located at an altitude of 8,000 meters above sea level. Its name comes not from the picturesque views of nature, and it doesn't resemble a valley in the traditional sense of the word. The reason for its name lies in the fact that around 200 climbers who failed to realize their dream of reaching the summit of Everest rest here. Against the backdrop of the snowy slope, the numerous bodies in differently colored climbing suits stand out immediately. This is why the area was named Rainbow Valley. Of course, this part of the route looks eerie, and many people wonder why these bodies remain there in such large numbers. The answer is simple. Retrieving frostbitten bodies from such an altitude is nearly impossible, as it is extremely dangerous and difficult. In the depths of the ocean, many creepy creatures remain either little studied or completely unknown. One of these is the Magna Squid. This squid lives in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans at depths of more than 2,000 meters underwater. The population of this species remains unknown, as scientists have only encountered about 20 individuals. All of these encounters were incidental, as the squids accidentally appeared in footage taken by deep-sea vehicles. These creatures look truly eerie, as if they arrived in the ocean from another planet. Their unusual appearance is created by incredibly long and thin arms that resemble ribbons or even sticks. The length of their arms is 15 to 20 times longer than the length of their mantle, and the total length of the Magna Pinna, including its arms, can reach 12 meters. Their primary means of movement is a large fin. Since observations of these deep-sea dwellers are sporadic, scientists still don't know much about their behavior and way of life. What interests scientists the most is why the Magna Pinna squid has such long arms. One theory is that these arms allow the squid to sweep the ocean floor and collect small crustaceans, or perhaps to use them to attract prey. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your engagement is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.